Having a mind that's out of control is painful. It can even be physically painful, and you can feel how your head is just squeezing. And it seems that no matter what you do, you can't slow down your thoughts. Well, there's quite a lot you can do about this, and meditation is a great way to help you with it. First of all, it's worth thinking about that in Buddhism, we consider the mind to be the sixth sense. What do I mean by that? Well, just like if you'd be hitting your hand like this over and over and over again, you would feel a tingling sensation. It would eventually start hurting. And if you stop hitting it, you'll still feel that tingling sensation. It's the same thing with our mind. When you throw at it a lot of jarring impressions, like you watch porn, you watch the news, you can play computer games, or you just stress a lot, the mind is going to be bombarded with these intense sensations, and it's going to have that aggravated state. So first off, look at your surrounding. What can you do to give yourself a calmer surrounding that would help give you a calmer mind? So what we're trying to do through meditation is to stop looking through the lens of our thoughts and instead looking at our thoughts, seeing that we are not the thoughts. This is why for many people meditating is seen as a way to calm down and just get rid of our thoughts. And that is a really good use of meditation. But if you want to practice mindfulness or insight meditation, what you do is you sit down, you calm your mind, and then you start observing your thoughts and you see what thoughts are coming up. So you'll sit and there's a thought, oh, this is a really unpleasant thought. I'm thinking of being embarrassed when I'm in front of a group of people and I don't know what to do and I feel so socially anxious about this situation. And then you would just look at that thought and you see, okay, I don't want to feel this way, but my thought is telling me that I feel this way. So then you look at what's happening here in between, and there's like this physical sensation inside of you going, ugh, I don't want this, just take it away, please. And we look at this thought and we feel it, and by looking at it, you don't really have to do anything. This is the beauty of it. You just observe it, and eventually you see the separation. You go like, oh, wait, I'm here, and I'm looking at the thought. I'm not the thought, I'm observing the thought. And so you create space between you and your thoughts. You stop identifying with your thoughts. That's the long-term solution to having a mind that you can't handle. But you might say, I am my thoughts, because I think my thoughts. I close my mind and I think, my name is Martin. I thought that thought, I made that come up. When I look at my thoughts in meditation, what is very obvious after a while is that the mind is just here and it's like a well. You put input into it and it just spits out new thoughts. So if I watch, you've noticed this, if you watch a movie, when you stop watching that movie, your mind is going to be spitting out thoughts in that theme, kind of. So if you watch a romantic comedy, you'll like have thoughts that are romantic and light. If you watch a horror movie or a war movie, your mind is going to be spitting out those kind of thoughts. So what you put into your mind is actually really important. And this is not something that requires thousands upon thousands of hours of meditation. As soon as you sit down and you start changing your way of observing your thoughts, you can have this separation. Sometimes it comes immediately and you see it really clearly. Sometimes you just start seeing a different angle and you're like, hey, wait a minute, something's different here. Say you have a difficult thought of some situation that's been haunting you your entire life, and all of a sudden you have a separation. You're like, oh my goodness, I can look at that thought and it causes no problems whatsoever to me. We then erroneously many times think, okay, I'm over this now. I've looked at it, I've come past it because I'm over that stuff. That's not quite how it works. The way it usually works is that you look at it and you keep observing, and then eventually you separate, and then you're saying like, okay, this is me observing, this is a thought, and you can see the distortion. In Buddhism, that's called dukkha, or suffering. I call it distortion because that's what it actually feels like. And so you can see that, and then that feels such a relief. There's so much tension that goes away, and you can just observe it and like, oh, this is amazing, I'm over it. A few days will pass, and then you'll feel this thought has more substance again. All of a sudden you can look at it, but it actually hurts. And you thought, oh, this didn't work. I failed. I didn't make it the way I thought I did. First, say you're connected 100%. Then you separate. So you're observing it like, oh, I'm not my thoughts, and this is just a thought. I don't have to worry about it. And then gradually it's going to come back, but you won't come back like this. It will come back like this. So now you're only 90% attached to that thought, and then you do it again and it goes away, and this is how it works. And just by time you will gradually do this. Just by experiencing life and going through life, you gradually separate from it. But in meditation we do that in a constructed way where we intentionally look at these things and separate from them. Some other tips for separating from your thoughts is that you can do a funny voice to your thoughts. So say you're thinking, I'm worthless, no one would ever love me. Then say it out loud with the voice of Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, or a squirrel, or James Bond, or whatever you like. So you say, no one loves me, I'm just an ugly person who no one likes. And then when you say it this way, it just seems kind of like, well, that's kind of silly. And then you say it again, and you say it like an ogre, like, oh, no one loves me, I'm just a silly person who no one likes. This seems really dumb, but if you keep doing this over and over, you'll somehow look at your thought and you just start separating yourself. It's like, oh, that's a dumb thought, like that's just silly. And you start having this separation again. Another good way of doing it is actually taking a piece of paper and writing it down. So you would write down this thought, like I'm a ugly person and no one wants to be with me, no one loves me. You write that down, and then some people burn it up, they scratch it over, they write it maybe 100 times and keep scratching it over like this, and just getting it from your mind onto the paper again creates this separation. I also know people who have written it on an object. So you can write your thought that you don't want to have. Well, the thought that is bothering you, you can write it on a stone, and you can then take that stone and you throw it away. Or you can write that stone on you can write that thought on a stone and then put it in your pocket. And whenever you have that thought, you just pick it up and say, oh, look, it's not in here. It's written on this stone. It's not actually me. There is so much more you can do to do this process, but these are just some of the most basic and simple tips that you can start with, and you don't actually need anything more complicated. What you need to do is just do this over and over and over and over again, and you'll experience how you're separating from your thoughts.